Welcome to the second episode of this series. By the end of this video, we will have written a simple program that accepts your height and weight, calculates three indexes, BMI, new BMI, and HWDI, and then displays the results. Let's start by writing some simple expressions. What's your height in centimeter? Type it in the Python shell and press enter. It's like Python mirror back that value to us. And what's your weight in kilogram? Now we have written the smallest expressions in Python, an expression with just a single value of data, nothing else. What type of data values are these? These are the whole numbers or integers, or int in short. What if we write the same value of height in meters? Height in meter is 1.78, for example. Python accepted that value too. This expression is written using a floating point number. Float, another type of data. Now to the third type. Take any letter, digit, symbol, or space from your keyboard. They all are characters. When we write words or names, we are chaining multiple characters together. Programmers call that a string. Strings must always be within quotes. In Python, you can use single quotes, double quotes, a pair of three single quotes, or a pair of three double quotes. So we learnt about three data types: int, float, and string. There are more to come later. By writing a single value of any type, we can write a simple Python expression. To make bigger expressions, use multiple values and operators. 1 plus 3, 6.2 minus 1.1, 2 squared. And so on. And even string a times 4, or adding two strings. All these are meaningful expressions in Python. Python evaluates an expression of any length, and reduces it into a single value. Back to the BMI problem. We can calculate our BMI, using height, and weight. Weight in kilogram divided by height squared, height in meter. Here we used names or words, instead of values. These words, height and weight, are called variables. Variables are the storage spaces for values. Here, we will use three variables. First to store the value of height, second to store the value of weight, and the third for the value of the BMI expression. Storing a value to a variable is called an assignment. It's written like, variable name equals expression. That is, for example, like this. Choose a meaningful name for the variable, and write the expression whose value is to be stored. Variables in the expressions are replaced by their values, and then the whole expression is evaluated. Then that value of the expression is assigned to the suggested variable. Assignment is an action, and these lines, which perform an action, are statements, assignment statement. Now, we have the core part of our first program. Adding lines for other indexes as well. Then, add some comments to explain the terms. The new lines starting with hash symbol are comments. Python doesn't process anything written in a comment. Use them to explain what we do in the code, or to add any extra notes for developers. You need to add enough comments to your code, wherever it is not self-explanatory. Otherwise, believe me, you may not understand your own code after a while. Back to our program. Is it finished now? No. This still uses fixed or hard-coded values for height and weight. We need to accept input from user, but don't know how to do that. When we don't know how to do something, what do? Call someone who's an expert in doing that, right? In programming, we can call functions like that. A function is a block of code that performs a specific task. It may accept some input values, or arguments, process them, and then may return an output, or return value. In Python, there are built-in functions that can perform some common tasks. Input is such a built-in function, when called, accepts a value from the user, then pass that value back to our program. How do we call a function? Call a function by its name, followed by open brackets. If it accepts a value or argument, pass that inside the bracket. If it accepts multiple arguments, pass them all inside the bracket, separated by commas. Input function accepts a string as argument. That string will be displayed as a prompt message to the user. Input function returns the user input as a string. A function call is an expression too, and is replaced by its return value. Here, the return value of input is a string. To convert a string value to int or float, we have these built-in functions of the same name, int and float. We can chain these functions like this, with one function call as an argument to the other. Now we can rewrite the first 2 lines of our code. Finished now? Not yet. Our program must display the final results to the user. Print is the built-in function for that. It prints the passed values to the screen. Let's add the print statements to the end of our program. Finished? Yes, finally. We have written our first program. When run, Python will execute them, from top to bottom, first statement executed first, then next, and so on. How to save and run this? We can copy these statements to Python shell. But, if we close the shell, we will lose all these lines of code. Instead, we have 2 alternative ways. First, open an empty file in your favorite text editor. Copy these lines over there. Save the file as bmi.py. Now, to run the program, go to the folder where you saved the file, and run the command python3, followed by the file name, and press enter. You can see that our code runs now. Second, if you are a Windows or Mac OS user who do not prefer command lines, you can open idle for Python. Go to the menu, File, New File. Enter all statements there and save the file as bmi.py. To run the program, go to the menu, Run, Run Module. You can choose any of these 2 options to save and run the program. Now it's time for a little practice. Get your Python shell ready. What will be the result of the following expressions and statements? Pause the video, make a guess, and then verify them, by entering each line of command in your terminal. And here's your lesson task. To write a simple program and verify that it gives the expected output. Before moving on to the next video, let's recap what we have learned. If you have any question, feel free to ask that in comments below. In our next video, we will learn a little more about functions.